Hello everyone, Isaac Vega here with Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. I'm talking to you guys today to kind of give you a brief overview on how to play Keystone North America on Tabletopia. Mostly we're creating this video so players that are demoing with us for Shucks over the course of the All Shucks weekend here in April 2021, so they can go ahead and utilize Tabletopia, kind of get a rundown of the game and understand how it works. However, if you've stumbled onto this video afterwards, we may have Tabletopia available for those of you interested in trying out the game, and hopefully this will be a valued resource for you. So to start off, I just want to mention I am by no means a Tabletopia expert. This is probably my 6th or 7th time utilizing Tabletopia. I'm mostly a TTS boy, for those of you who know what Tabletop Simulator is. But Tabletopia is also great. There's lots of wonderful features that it has here, which I'm sure you guys can figure out on your own. I'll just be teaching you some of the basics on how to utilize Tabletopia for Keystone specifically. But if you want to find out more, usually Tabletopia has a nice tutorial. As soon as you log in, that pops up, gives you a little bit of a rundown of what controls you can use. If you're joining us for Shucks, and you're demoing with a person, we're going to have volunteers as well as possibly me and Lindsay that are also going to be teaching some demos as well. So we'll try to make you as comfortable and make the process as easy as possible for you as well. So first things first, you're going to be utilizing your mouse to move around. You're going to select one of these player colors up here. I've already selected blue, as you can see down here. You're going to have your player board. Your player board is where you're going to be playing your species cards. The most important thing, and the action you'll probably be utilizing most often throughout the game, is selecting cards from the field. The 6 cards that are placed here in the middle are known as the field, and you're going to be able to gain cards from there, and I'll explain exactly how that works in a little bit. Right above the field is the game tracker. The game tracker is going to be tracking how many turns left until the end of the game. So if you're playing with 2 players, the game ends at at round 6. If you're playing with 8, it's going to end there. Actually, I said rounds. The game is not in rounds, just so you know. I'll explain a little bit how the game tracker moves up here in a bit when I explain the skill tokens right above them. So you have these skill tokens. This is the second action that you're going to be able to utilize. You're going to be able to either gain a card from the field, or you're going to be able to use one of these possible skills in the game. Each skill has a different icon that represents a different action that you can do. You can select either one skill by flipping it over and utilizing all of the information that's on the top there, or you can go ahead and select all of the skills that have been flipped over onto their exhausted side. So the ones that have these yellows, you can select all of them as one action and flip them back over. What happens then is when someone selects that, they're going to move the game timer up 1, and the closer it gets to the end is going to end the game there. Another possible way of ending the game is filling your player board. So you have the possibility of filling it up and ending the game there, and every player after you will be able to finish out the round and hopefully fill out their player board as well before you end it for everyone. All of the skills have unique abilities. The abilities are going to be placed on the back of the rulebook in the real game, but we have this nifty little still token guide that you can go ahead and utilize in the Tabletopia that you can look at as well. We have some information down here about a new token that was specifically for our playtest team. Goes over the story tokens, which are on the back of research tokens that I'll explain a little bit. But those are only utilized in solo play, so you don't need to worry about it here since this is a multiplayer version of the game. Above the skill tokens, we also have the wild cards. The wild cards are going to be utilized in the game in place of a species card to be placed on your player board, and you can pay for them by spending synergy tokens. Synergy tokens, you'll be gaining 5 at the beginning of the game if you're the first player, 6, 7, 8, continuing around the circle as depending on what your turn is in play. And you'll be gaining those, and how you utilize synergy tokens is that you can go ahead and pay 1, 2, 3 to select different cards on the river and place them on the field. River is a common terminology for sometimes this section here, but we're calling it the field in this game. So You can go ahead and pay for each card that's before the card that you want and place them on those cards. If you were to select one of the cards that was on the field that already had a synergy token on it, for example, if I selected this sugar maple and placed it here on my board, I would be gaining any synergy tokens that accumulated and putting them into my supply. Something that's interesting also about placement that you'll learn here is that when you place cards on your board, you're going to be able to set them up in ways in order to gain synergy tokens as well. And I'm going to explain a little bit more by explaining how a card is laid out. So this here is the beautiful coyote, illustrated by Jan, one of our artists on the project. And you'll notice that there are 4 symbols on the left side of the card. These all represent the different ecosystems that we are trying to represent within the game and the ecosystems that these animals tend to live in. So the top one there, right up here, is the forest jungle ecosystem. That symbol represents both of those different ecosystem types. The second one here is the desert grassland. And the third one here is the wetland rivers. And the fourth one is the Arctic alpine. You can find out a little bit more information about those in the rulebook, but for the most part, within the course of the game, you're just going to be trying to match up these symbols with other symbols on your player board in order to score points and gain synergy tokens. Up in the top corner is a very, very important symbol. Only a few animals in the game have this symbol, but it is known as a keystone symbol, which is very important. It's going to double up your ecosystem chains and gain you even more points throughout the course of the game. So it's very important to try to get as many animals on your board as possible that match up in your ecosystem chains with this symbol, because it's going to get you a lot of great points. Also, you have down here is going to be the season symbol. Now this comes in 4 different possible types: summer, spring, fall, and winter. And you're going to be able to utilize them for your secret objectives, which I'll explain in a little bit. You also have the number here in the center. Now this represents where your animal is in the food chain. This is important because in order to score points, you need to make sure that your animal chains and ecosystems that you're setting up on your board are going in either descending or ascending order by their number. So you're going to need, like, for example, in this setup, I want to go ahead and have a 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to match this up and have a scoring chain at the end of the game. What's also important, though, is in order for me to do that, I'm also going to need them to at least match on one ecosystem as well. So they're going to go ahead and have to see how it matches up here with the prairie dog on the desert plain symbol. And luckily the coyote has that too, and so does my cute little Mexican spotted owl. If I went ahead and had a 2 here, that this would be a full chain. So let me go ahead and grab this Sidewinder rattlesnake, place that there. I would have had to pay 1. Well, I already had that. Let's go ahead and put that there, and I would have had to pay 4 in order to get that rattlesnake, but that would have completed my chain there, and that would be a nice, big, hefty set of points at the end of the game, and I'll explain how to total points here in a little bit as well. So you'll notice when I place down that rattlesnake, since it had a matching symbol, something interesting happens. Now this is not dependent on whether or not it matches its number, it matches anything else on the chain. All that it needs to match is symbol. If you place a card on your player board that has a matching symbol next to another card that has a matching symbol, you're going to gain synergy tokens as soon as you place it. So, since I placed a Sidewinder snake in between the black prairie dog and the coyote, I'm going to go ahead and gain 1 synergy token for placing it next to the black prairie dog, and 1 synergy token for placing it next to the coyote. Now, let's say, for example, I would have placed this boop, boop, and I would have gotten this Mexican gray wolf and placed it up here. I would gain that synergy that's on the Mexican gray wolf, but I'd also gain 2 synergy tokens for placing it next to the coyote. So I'm going to gain those. Now you'll notice this is a 5 and 3, so they are not going to create a chain because there's no 4 in between them. even though they're in descending order. But I still got the synergy tokens for placement. So sometimes, even though you may not be able to match up the number in order to score points at the end of the game, sometimes it's good to place cards on your player board in order to gain the synergy, so you have the ability to select better cards later. You can also use those synergy tokens to pay for wild cards. Wild cards can go ahead and represent whatever number you want them to on the chain, but they only represent one ecosystem and one season symbol as well. So because of that, you can go ahead and utilize those, and there's only 2 of those in the course of the game, so if you want that specific wild card, you better rush to buy it before somebody else does. So I've been taking cards off of this field here, and normally you can only take 1 card at a time, so to go around as players select the different action they want to do. There are 2 main actions that you can play throughout the course of the game. One action is either select a card from the field, and the second action is utilize the skill. Okay? So whenever I select a card from the field, all of these cards will drift down and will be replaced at the end of my turn by a new card. Yep. So now we have the field refilled, and then go on to the next player's turn. So, just so you know, there'll always be at least 6 cards for you to select throughout the course of each of your turns when you're selecting that action. However, the skills might provide you with more options as well. So, just to explain a little bit more what's going on your player board, at the end of the game, you're going to be scoring points based on each row and each column that you have in the game, and is going to score its own separate points. So let me go ahead and set up some more cards here. I'm going to ignoring the rules in order to set this up for you, so you guys can go ahead and see maybe a little bit more of how this is set up. I'll place this down here, and I'm going to place this right here, and this right here. I think that's a good enough amount to show you how to score at the end of the game. So preferably, your player board would be full at the end of the game before the timer makes the game end. So hopefully you'll be able to go ahead and get your player board full before either some player fills out their entire player board or the timer makes the game end. And how you're going to score points at the end of the game is by totaling up each chain that you have in your player board that's created a nice little habitat for these animals. So, first things first, you're going to want to score all of your rows. So I have this row up here. This is a 3-4. Now, I don't have a card here, and I don't have a card here, so I can't match anything else. And they do have one matching symbol amongst them, so they are going to score a chain. Now, this mule deal will give me 1 point, and so will the bighorn sheep. It'll give me 2 points. Now, if there was a keystone symbol on either of these animals, they would go ahead and double that amount of points within the chain. So if I had a keystone token among them, I would go ahead and actually gain 4 points from this chain, but I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. This one just scored me 2. What's nice here is that I've scored all of these because they all go in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. And I'm also going to be gaining 2 keystone symbols amongst them, so that's awesome because they all share a symbol again in their ecosystems as well. And I'm going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to double it, and then I'm going to triple it because I have 2 keystone symbols amongst them. So I'm going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would go ahead and give me 12 points in total because every time you see a keystone symbol, you add that sequence again. I have no more rows that are going to get me any sort of points, but then I move on to my columns. So this column isn't going to score me anything, but this one here is a 3-2. So remember, you can go in ascending or descending order, and as long as there's no gaps, you're going to be able to score those points, and as long as they have a matching symbol. So again, they have the matching desert prairie symbol here. I'm going to be able to score 1, 2 points. They again don't have any keystones on them, so they're not going to get me any other additional points by doubling that up. But then I'm going to move down here. Now, here's a little tricky one. So we have matching symbols throughout, But this one's going to be a little bit of a tricky one because you'll see that there is a possibility of gaining the 4-3 combo here or the 3-4-5 combo that we have here because they all have the matching symbol. So you can only score one sequence in a column or a row. So because of that, I'm going to be only able to score this one. So, or I'm going to prefer to score this one because this is more points for me. So I'm going to go ahead and score this one, 3, 4, 5. And what's nice about this one is that I also have 2 keystone symbols. So I'll do it again. So 1, 2, 3 points, 4, 5, 6 points, 7, 8, 9 points because of the amount of keystone symbols that I have. Lastly, I don't have anything in this column that's going to get me points, and that's how I would total everything together. Now, I have a terrible memory, so I have no idea what those numbers altogether is total to, but that's why we have a score sheet in the game box for you to utilize. In Tabletopia, we're going to go ahead and have you guys just go ahead and write down to the side. We may be able to add a counter later in before Shucks, so if that's available, the demoer will go ahead and let you know how to utilize that. The other thing that's really nice is that you can go ahead and score additional points by utilizing your secret objectives. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to be gaining 2 of these cards, and you're going to be able to go ahead and try to match up the cards on your board to these symbols that you'll have available. So, as you can see, it's kind of in this fun Tetris shape, and you're going to want to have your cards in this setup for their season symbols, if you can make that happen. If that happens, you're going to get 10 points at the end of the game, in addition to any points that you scored on your player board for sequences. All right? So, let's see, did I score any of that? As of right now, I don't have any of that set up, but if I maybe worked a little harder throughout the course of the game, let's see, I could have had this going on. So, let's see, now, that would have gotten me this Tetris shape here. Yeah, it can go in any orientation, so you just can't flip it backwards or some sort of that kind of makes a difference, but in this one it wouldn't. You can, so in this one it'd be upside down, but that would work. So I would be able to get the additional 10 points was in this sequence, but that might have messed up some other strategies. So you kind of have to balance which is going to get you the most points, what you want to do there, and trying to figure out how you're going to get the most points possible on your player board. So, something else that's going to be interesting. Let me go and fill out the field here real quick. So let's say this field is not something that you want. None of the cards are anything interesting, or you just find that there's a skill up here that's just a juicier decision for you to take. Now, these skills all have their own unique abilities. You'll go ahead and see here in the skill token guide that it's going to be a detailed explanation of what they are. Hopefully, if you're playing with the demo or during Shucks, they'll be able to tell you everything, how to utilize the skills, I'm going to go ahead and explain these that are out here for you. Like I said earlier, there are 10 of these in the game, but you only play with 5 in a multiplayer version, so they're always going to be changing up as you play the game, as well as the cards that come out on the field. This one right here allows you to place a research token on a winter symboled card, species card. So if it has a winter symbol, you can place a research token. Research tokens are really nice because what research tokens do is they give you 1 additional point for that card if it ends up in a viable sequence. So you're going to want to get research tokens on cards. But the rule is that you can only place a research token on a winter symboled card if it does not currently have one, so you have to spread them out. You can't just sit there researching the same animal unless there's a specific skill token that comes out. Maybe it's here, I'm not sure, but we'll go ahead and see and explain it later. Oh, it is. So this one specifically also allows you to play a research token on a card that already claimed a research token. So this one's really nice too. What also at the bottom, I didn't explain this on the last skill token, is that you're going to be able to discard 2 cards of the field. In fact, you're required to when you take this action. So let's say I went ahead and took this action. Nope, I'm touching both of them for some reason. Well, let's go ahead and say I took this action. And you press F to flip, FYI, in Tabletopia. So if you ever want to flip a card or a skill token, you can do that. So you're going to be flipping this over. Let's say I took that. I'd have to also discard 2 cards from the field. So I'd go ahead and place my research token on a card that already had one. And then I discard any 2 cards from the field I felt like. So let's say I don't like this one, and I don't want the Golden Eagle later on my sequence, or I want to get to the Gopher Tortoise a little bit earlier. So that's something that I went ahead and moved down. If there were any skill tokens on top, or I'm sorry, synergy tokens on top of cards, you'd return those to the supply if you discarded them from the field or discarded them for any reason throughout the course of the game. So I'd flip that over, and now this skill token is considered exhausted. So I'll go ahead and explain a couple more skill tokens, like this one right here. This one would allow me to select 1 card. I'd draw 3 cards from the top of the species deck, so the ones that have not been revealed over here. And then I'd go ahead and select 1 if I wanted to. I could go ahead and just select none if I felt like it. And then place 1 on my player board. And you'd go score any synergy, you'd score anything as normal, and then you'd discard cards as well. And then you'd flip this, and there you go. The rest are somewhat self-explanatory, but you can go ahead and look at the skill tokens when you're playing in here. Of course, these might be different when you're playing, since they are randomized and they are different every game. So if I didn't like one of the active skill symbols and instead I wanted to select all of the exhausted ones, I could go ahead and say, let's say this one was exhausted as well. I could go and say, you know what, I'm not going to select this one because I don't want it, or I don't have something on my field that has a winter, but instead I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. So I could go ahead and use this to rearrange, move one of the cards that I have on my field to a different position. So let's say I want to move this guy here. That'd probably be nice because then that scores me a chain. I'd rearrange, and then I'd also gain synergy. Just in case I haven't explained already, whenever you place or move a card on your player board next to another card that has a matching symbol, you're going to gain synergy tokens dependent on how many symbols are matching adjacent to them. So in this case, when I moved that Mexican gray wolf next to the Mexican spotted owl, which has 2 matching symbols, I'd gain 2 synergy. And next to the California condor has 1 matching symbol, I'd gain 1 synergy. So if it's just a reminder, and I already mentioned it in this video because I forgot already, but it's a good reminder because it's one thing that it can get you a lot of synergy, which is a good for going in and purchase these. It's going to be good for purchasing wild cards, and it's also worth 1 point at the end of the game for every 3 synergy tokens that you have at the end of the game. But let's go ahead and finish out what was going on over here. I am terrible at rules explaining, but hopefully you guys understand what's going on. This one would allow me to go ahead and select 1 card from the top 3 cards in the discard pile if I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I don't right now. And this one would allow me to place a research token on a wild token. So see how it matches up the symbol on the back of the wild cards. But I don't have a wild one, so I wouldn't do that there. So I would have done all of those, and then when anybody selects all of the exhausted ones, this game tracker moves up 1 there. And if you guys have any questions or you find any of this confusing, please feel free to comment in the video below. We'll go ahead and try to make sure that your questions are answered, hopefully during Shucks. And also, like we said, there's going to be someone there with you demoing if you have any questions while you're utilizing Tabletopia as well. So that's how you utilize skills. So you can either select 1 active one, like I said, or you can select all of the exhausted ones and then move the game timer up 1. If the game timer ever matches up to, you'll see little pips here that represent the amount of players that are playing. So let's say if it was right here and I just selected that and there were 3 players playing, boom, moved up to 8, the game would be ending. So the game ends once all players have taken an equal amount of turns, and either the game has sat on the track on the number of players that are playing, or 1 player has filled out their player board. So for example, if I filled out my player board here, The second and third player would still be able to take one more turn, but then the game would end. Hopefully that explains most of everything. The only other thing that I have yet to explain, I believe, is the wild cards. So, the wild cards, like I said, you could go ahead and purchase for 10 synergy at any time during your turn. Once per turn, you can purchase one wild card. How wild card works is they're going to function exactly like species cards, but the only big difference is that their number is wild. So their number can represent anything. So if I would place it here, at the end of the game, this would go ahead and represent whatever number I wanted it to when I'm scoring this row. And then it also represent whatever number I wanted to when I'm scoring this column. So for example, if I was wanting to score this, it could represent a 2 here, or I'm sorry, a 3 here, so 3, 4. And then for this, it could represent a 1, so 1, 2, 3. That's a little, it can be a little complicated scoring at the end of the game, and the demoers will certainly make you understand. Of course, for those of you who've already been looking at the rulebook, hopefully you have a clear understanding and some examples of how scoring works. But once you get in the hang of it, it's super simple to get. This game, it's really, really simple to understand. Just, taking one of the two different actions, either a skill or selecting a card from the field, and making all these sequences work is really cool. You'll notice that some of the cards in the game do not have artwork yet. We're working on that. The artists are doing an amazing job making the game look absolutely beautiful, and we're going to have all the artwork done, obviously, by the time the game is out. And the only other thing that I guess I did not explain was research tokens. Boom. So, like I said, you could go ahead and use some skill tokens to place research tokens on animals. And when you're scoring at the end of the game, they're going to count as an additional point. So let's say I was scoring this wild card here as a 3, and this is a 4. Oh, I am sorry. When I said that this wild card would work here, I was completely wrong, because you know why? This symbol doesn't match up with any of these symbols, Isaac, you silly, silly man. So, this is the correct wild card that I should have purchased, but, it was in the thrill of teaching. So I wasn't paying attention to even how my own game works. So this should have been the correct wild card, and that could get you some points there. So let's say, for example, at the end of the game, I was scoring this row, and I was going to go ahead and score it like normal. It'd be 1 point for the card, another point for this card, and then you get an additional point for this research token, and an additional point for this one. So this entire row sequence would score you 4 points. And if I was scoring this column, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. All right, there's no keystones amongst them. If there was a keystone symbol on this mule deer, for example, this would be 5 points. Then you'd score the 5 points again, so it'd be 10 points in total, because the keystone doubles the entire sequence again, including research tokens. So hopefully that gives you a clear understanding of the game. I know this demo went on a little long. Hopefully you guys will be able to absorb everything much quicker with more experienced and better demoers. I can't even say the word demoers than me. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have an understanding of how you're going to be able to play Keystone. I hope you enjoy playing and trying out the demo as well. If you guys need any more information on Keystone or any other of Rose Gauntlet's products, you can go to www.rosegauntlet.com and check out more of our stuff. You can always reach out to us on any of our social media channels, at Rose Gauntlet for most of them. And feel free to contact me, Isaac, at rosegauntlet.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy Keystone. Thank you. Bye.